Hello, I'm John Prendergast, clinical hypnopsychotherapist. My objective here with all of you is to make it easier for you to do presentations. In short, in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to allow you to feel noticeably better with your comfort levels giving presentations. You might think that that's a big and ambitious statement, but A, it's not if you understand how the brain works, and B, I'm going to be cheating because in fact I'll be using a second brain. So I'm going to start by taking you through just very quickly what happens in the brain when you feel anxious or worried, because that's one of the key elements of how you take control of a feeling of fear or a feeling of anxiety or worry. And I tend to use those three words fairly interchangeably because what's happening in the mechanics of your brain is very similar. There's a part of your brain which is just in behind this area, which is called the amygdala. It's a clearinghouse for information that comes in through your five senses as to whether you're in danger or not. It's pretty much the only job it has. It gets aside from any other part of your brain if you're in danger. If you've been doing something and suddenly jumped, didn't notice it was only a cat or something fairly harmless. Visual input came in, went into the optic nerve, was sent to the back of the brain to the visual input area. It also went to the amygdala, which is just in here. Look at the distance. Which gets it first? The amygdala. The amygdala just goes, there's something there, it might be danger, bam, your body responds. Sudden burst of adrenaline, you might find that you're shaking, and cortisol and stress hormones are present in the system, so you could run away or fight if you needed to. But your visual cortex, in this case, tells you it was just a cat, so you calm down. That's the same mechanism actually that's been happening to any of you who've told me that you're anxious or worried. And the reason I'm talking on this topic today is because you all have presentations that are done, and you're all going to do more presentations, and most of you have mentioned over the last while that you've been anxious or worried about them. So you know a little bit about what's going on there. What we're really going to focus on are the techniques that you can use to be able to very quickly and simply get rid of worry and anxiety at a moment's notice. There's handouts, which I'll talk about at the end, which have each of the mice covered so you'll be able to remember them afterwards. And there's a second sheet in there so that you can learn how to use these with the knowledge of what's going on in the brain to build an easier time in life. So you don't just have to use techniques all the time. By using them, you can make your life easier in the long run. I'll be very happy to take questions at the end. So, the next point I want to cover is how it gets easier. Yep, things get easier. You do a presentation, you find the next one a little easier. And we've seen some good examples of that today. How this happens at the basic level, how this happens is through the brain cells. This is a very simple cell diagram. Single cell, whose red parts at one end take in little branches that take in information, goes down the nerves, and is given out at the other end. The more you use the system, such as being calm, the closer these ends physically grow together. The ends of cells in your brain actually grow together to make it easier to do something. This is how you will learn anything. You learn to drive the car when there was 15 things at once, mirror, indicate, and all the rest. Now you get into the car, you just drive. The reason you can do that is the cells involved have become much more adaptive at adapting and performing that task. And that's how all learning pretty much happens in the body. And the same is learning how not to be anxious. Whenever you change from being anxious, the cells are used to being anxious. They do the opposite. They start to die back. They start to actually change, so it becomes more difficult to be anxious. Just think about that for a moment. How cool is it that the more you do to calm yourself, the more difficult it actually becomes to be anxious? But that's real life-changing technology right there. There's another way cells do this. With giving out stress hormone, the cell grows receptors that pick up the stress hormone. Because it accepts there's an abundance of it, you must need it, and it takes on board. Change the habit a bit. Start giving less stress hormone. The number of receptors changes. The cells actually grow more receptors for calm hormones, for things that make you feel good. And after a while, the abundance of good and useful hormones and brain chemicals are coming about because you're more calm and relaxed. It makes those cells more able to take them on board. And once again, your life changes for the positive, without you having to do anything except continue the habit. 2 to 3 months is the best medical estimate on how long that process takes to make a substantive difference in your life. So if you're making a big change with something, Stick with it for 2 to 3 months, and it becomes easier. So now the techniques making this easier. I put this up because you all know what that means. I don't say a word about it, you just look at the back of that man's head, you know what he's feeling. Because emotion is physical. Any of you who've been worried or anxious, say, most likely had butterflies or a tightness in the belly or a rising sense of stress. So I'm going to show you a few very quick techniques to take care of that. And I'd like you all just to imagine your next presentation, or maybe something that you worry a little bit about or are a bit stressed about. Just bring something to mind, visualize it, notice the negative emotions. Now I'd like you just to close your eyes at this point and stay with that emotion. Notice where it is, and notice your breathing. Notice your internal dialogue. There might seem like there's a lot of things going on in your head at one time. Imagine just slowing that down, slowing your internal dialogue to a comic level of slowness. And I mean comic slowness. Just slow your thinking. So I'd like you to just open your eyes. I'd like to ask you, just did you notice a change in feeling? If you did, just give me a thumbs up around the room. Who feels calmer having just done that? So, 10 or 11, yeah. 11, brief 11, but one time came down. So, all you did was take literally a few seconds and slow your thinking. And did you feel better? Yeah? Couldn't really be simpler. And because you're feeling better, all of this stuff I've been talking about is happening automatically in the background. You've actually made things better than you realize by making that effort and taking charge and reducing your worry. Here's another really good one. If you tend to feel it in your body, there's a brilliant technique. So just think of something else that stresses you or worries you, and close your eyes and just notice where you physically feel that. I always feel it low in my gut. There was a time, not that many years ago, when my normal default setting was abject terror. I was afraid of everything and everyone, and I felt it in my gut. So just notice wherever you feel. And now just imagine, as you breathe out, that you can just let that flood down through your legs, that bad feeling just flood down through your legs into the ground. Maybe like a wave flowing out, or roots of a tree spreading out. Or maybe like electricity earthing through your legs into the ground. Just use a visual. And just stay with that for a few seconds. I'm just going to give you about 6 seconds here. Now you just open your eyes and come back to here and now. And again, if you feel calmer having done that, thumbs up. There's no change. That's fine. Again, 11 at 11. So how does that work? Really simply, when I have you visualize something, I focus your brain on where your brain is already giving you a signal. When you're worrying, when you get a physical reaction in the body, that's your brain literally grabbing you by the guts to make sure you notice or perceive danger. There may be danger, there may not be danger, but your brain thinks there's one and it creates a reaction as a result. If it's not a useful time to have that reaction, do something about it. Focus your brain's attention on the area. And when you use a visual image, do that in your mind, you bring up the 40% of your neocortex into play. That's 40% of the neocortex, which is a large fleshy area of the brain, comes into play. You don't really need to be a rocket scientist to work out if you get more of your brain working on a problem, you're going in the right direction. So then it just flows out of you, because you're saying to your brain, that area where you've been giving and gotten that rising feeling, I accept and I understand, and I'm sending a signal to counter that. Your brain understands the metaphor very easily. So, there are 2 techniques you can use anywhere, anytime. I can actually use them while speaking to you. Right now I'm visualizing something is flowing out of me, just earthing down. I've slowed down my thinking, and you might hear that my voice changes slightly, drops, as I slow down my thinking. The fact that I can do these right in front of you all should give you an idea for how you can use them in presentations, but you can also use them for any other aspect of life. So in conclusion, your brain is giving you something that's trying to help you when you feel worried. It's giving you a reaction, and if you were being mugged, it would be useful. You'd have more energy, more perception, and ability to run. If it's not useful, give a signal back to your brain, saying, I understand, I don't need it. Slow your thinking. Visualize whatever area of tension feeling just flooding out and earthing. And every time you do that, you're making things better. because your brain is responding to those changes. So thank you very much. I'll be happy to take questions in a moment.